Should you write your story as a novel or a memoir? I had a consultation with a client who wanted to tell her, or wants to tell her story, but was unsure about how she should go about doing it. She wants to write a tell-all, but is nervous about the implications a tell-all could have, i.e., telling her story to the detriment of her ex-husband's character. I said, girl, I got you. Trust me, I understand. There are two ways, well, really three ways you can write this story. One is just to write it and not care who you or what you imply, who you're talking about. Just throw caution to the wind. But as your hashtag writer bae, I do not recommend that. So the real way one that I recommend you do it is as a novel. Here it is fiction, which means it's made up. It can be inspired by true events, which means most of what happened or most of what's happened in this novel happened to you in real life. Some things have changed, but the audience doesn't necessarily know what has changed, nor do we know exactly who you're talking about. So if I told her, if your ex-husband is tall, light-skinned with locks, then make him short, brown skin with a beard and a bald head. Like, change his physical characteristics, change what he does for a living, change a little bit of his background, but you can still tell the story as it happened. But this also gives you a little freedom in the storytelling area, because since it's fiction, you can go back and say things you thought about later. You know how after the argument you're like, dang, I should have said this, or, oh man, I should have done this. You can do those things in the novel because it's fiction, as long as you're telling your story to the best of your ability. The second way is to do it as a motivational memoir. So with this, you're telling bits and pieces of the story. You're not telling us your life from the rooter to the tutor. We don't care where you were born, what your grandmama did, unless it is critical to the story you're telling. But you can take key points and you tell that that time period. So for instance, if I'm talking about motherhood, my story wouldn't begin September 3rd, 1980. My story would begin February 6th, 2008, when I had my first child, or maybe a little bit before that, the pregnancy part. But in telling bits and pieces, you're essentially telling main points of the story, right? To keep things going along. But as a motivational memoir, you're saying to your audience, hey, this is what happened to me. This is what I learned from it. This is what I would have done differently. And this is what you can do now, having read my experience. This is what you can do to avoid being in this same situation, or how you can handle the situation when you have it. I hope this helped you. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments. Happy writing!